From Action News Jax, this is First Alert Weather. Stories of survival from across Florida.
Hurricanes Helene and Milton hit Florida and multiple states in the southeast in 2024, leaving communities destroyed, flooded, and without power. This is just a glimpse of what the storms look like as they drop tons of rain, knocking over trees and power lines. Welcome to First Alert Weather, stories of survival from across Florida. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Buresh. Helene made landfall in the Florida Big Bend region as a Category 4 hurricane. Milton reached Category 5 intensity over the Gulf, but hit the west coast of the state as a Category 3. Milton was one of the strongest hurricanes of record in the Atlantic Basin, but Helene's now considered the deadliest hurricane in the U.S. since Katrina in 2005, killing at least 250 people. Locally, Helene's strong winds dealt the biggest blow. Many trees were snapped or uprooted. About a quarter of Duval County customers lost power after the storm. Most were reconnected within 2 days. Damage was more significant across southeast Georgia, closer to the center of Helene, where some areas were without power for a week or longer. Milton, on the other hand, was more of a rainstorm across the local area, especially near and south of about Interstate 10. This is what St. Augustine looked like after the storm hit. The storm surge raised the water levels, flooding streets, and at one point shut down the Bridge of Lions. Rainfall ranged from 2 inches across southern Duval County to as much as 8 to 10 inches across central and southern St. Johns County. Milton also spawned a record number of tornadoes across central and southern Florida. I took a trip down to the Big Bend and Tampa area earlier this year to see how the locals are recovering while preparing for the current hurricane season. The first stop was Treasure Island. It's a city in Pinellas County that sits on a barrier island in the Gulf of Mexico. This is what the city looks like now. Homes and businesses are continuing to be rebuilt or repaired, but locals told me they're going to come back stronger than ever, despite all they've lost.
Treasure Island near Tampa on Florida's west coast has beautiful sunsets with a gorgeous view of the Gulf surf. But it's also in harm's way when storms like Hurricane Helene moved by in September of 2024.
It's sad, slightly discouraging, but again, we're resilient. We're going to come back.
Like we think about, oh, we don't have our tourists and we lost some hotels, but it's more than that. We've lost a lot that affects the day-to-day lives of people.
I'm at Caddy's on the beach in Treasure Island. Absolutely stunningly beautiful, but Caddy's took it on the chin from Helene and Milton. There's full of sand and there's major structural damage. It's going to have to be rebuilt. So temporarily, the city has allowed a tent to be built, and it at least is allowing some sense of normalcy again for not just the customers, but workers too.
It was sad to drive through it, days or weeks after, but even now months after, but it's coming back slowly. It's been difficult, but we're nothing but resilient down here in Florida, especially, Treasure Island, Pinellas County. I mean, everybody, we hear it every day from all of our patrons that they're happy that we're here again.
Locals are happy to see some progress, some hope.
A little heartbroken, honestly. It's really sad to see, but it is nice to see that they are repairing and they're going to reopen again someday.
Because we had so many people, bartenders, servers, security, cooks, dishwashers, who weren't doing anything because they couldn't. At least now they can make some money, and that's huge. Kind of brings a little normalcy back for people. They can get out here and recharge the soul because we live in the most beautiful spot on the planet.
Caddy's on Treasure Island was the first restaurant of 4 Caddy's that are open now. Owners hope the original can be fully rebuilt within the next 1 to 2 years.
And even though Hurricane Helene stayed more than 60 miles offshore, Treasure Island was inundated by storm surge that was up to at least 6 feet. Locals told me the floodwaters came into their homes. The lines you see on the walls in this video show just how high the water was. The homeowners say the water caused expensive and extensive damage, and now they're trying to fix it up.
At first glance, some parts of Treasure Island don't appear to be at all that damaged, but upon closer examination,
this whole room here, the Florida room, was filled with probably a half a foot of sand. Is this wall here, which faces the Gulf, this had come out during the storm. You can see the water line is up to here.
This is Elena Riccardi's father's home, sitting empty now while her dad tries to figure out what the next steps will be.
Do we fix it and then risk it flooding again? Do we raise it and fix it? But if you're going to invest that money in, you might as well just rebuild a whole new house.
And that's because of cost.
Homes and buildings on Treasure Island, if they haven't been destroyed by the hurricane, have to be raised or lifted like this one. That's like a $300,000 proposition on average. And then there's still the price of the full reconstruction. It's a long and very expensive process.
George Williams has been a Treasure Island resident for 30 years. He's never had water in his home until Helene came along, piling up 3 feet of water on the first floor.
And I saw 2 of my cars floating down the street. They were parked over across the street at the highest point, and 2 of them were floating down the street.
Oh, no.
So that was a kind of a nightmare there.
This is video around George's neighborhood right after Helene. Trees down, mounds of sand spread inland from the beach, and lots of standing water. And George is now concerned about what could be ahead.
It's scary because I'd never had water before. I don't know what's coming. I don't know if it's a trend or just a 100-year thing.
And George has a warning for folks in Jacksonville, Northeast Florida, and Southeast Georgia who have not had a direct hit from a hurricane since Dora in 1964.
It had not hit to this level probably in about 100 years here. So that doesn't save you if it's 60. It could easily happen to you. You just have to be prepared.
Locals will never forget the night Helene's storm surge roared through the neighborhood.
Never had a drop of water in my house for 30 years, and this time around it was about 3 feet of water in my house.
I evacuated to my cousin's house. Unfortunately, that also got flooded. So we ended up, my whole family, we lost 4 cars, I think. It was a terrible night. But looking back, really interesting. Like I said, our cars flooded. When that happens, your car's electrical system goes out, so all the alarms in the cars are going off, and there's no electricity, and you're hot, and the neighbors are coming over, wading through, waist-deep water with their insurance documents over their heads, and there were electric vehicles catching on fire in the salt water, and it was a wild night. Obviously, the place was in ruins. There was sand everywhere in the streets, fire alarms going off. There was gas cans and all kinds of toxic stuff everywhere.
It's a struggle to come back from such a disaster, and Treasure Island seems to be undergoing a transformation of sorts.
To pay property taxes on a house you can't live in, and a lot of people, homeowners on the island, they both have to pay their property taxes, pay for repairs, and they're paying for rent elsewhere. And so it puts people in this really awful bind. A lot of people who've been here for a long time are having to leave and are just in these really tight spots. And then we risk the community of the island changing and people who've lived here for a long time not coming back.
The hardest part was waiting 5 months to get a permit. And we finally did, get the permit. And once that happened, things started to move very, very fast.
Nestled just south of the Florida Big Bend and about 2 hours north of Tampa is the island community of Cedar Key. History says this part of Florida has about the same odds of being hit directly with a hurricane as Jacksonville. But recent trends tell a very different story. I also visited the city to see how folks are coping and rebuilding there.
Back-to-back rough hurricane seasons have put the quaint community of Cedar Key in long-term recovery mode.
It's put us into a place of transition that we haven't seen for a lot of years. Interestingly, it was 128 years, almost to the day, and perhaps to the day, between the big storm that blew the city off of Cineoti, which is the island half-mile out from here, to and then the city relocated here.
In fact, before 2016 and Hurricane Hermine, which moved by to the west, it's been 80 years since Cedar Key flooded.
And then Idalia came along, and we thought that was a big deal.
We thought that was the 100-year storm.
And then comes Helene.
These watermarks in Steamers, a local restaurant, say it all. Hermine in 2016 was little more than a puddle compared to Idalia in 2023 and Helene in 2024.
So check out this map. The percentage chances of a hurricane coming in within 50 miles of any point, that includes right here in the Gulf of Mexico and the Big Bend of Florida, is about 3%. It's the same as Jacksonville and northeastern Florida. But look what's happened here in the Big Bend and Cedar Key area in just 2 hurricane seasons squeezed together, 2023 and 2024. There was Idalia, Debbie, and Helene.
That means we should always be prepared. For Cedar Key, the recent string of storms has provided a learning experience.
You learn through subsequent storms remediation that you should do. You should learn anyway. And we tried to learn, and we tried to be more prepared for each one.
Former Mayor Colson says everyone in hurricane-prone areas needs to have a plan.
You still need to have a plan on how you recover, and that's important.
That's the resilience.
That's the resilience.
Rebuilding.
The kind of materials you use, the kind of cleanup you want.
Despite the hardship from recent hurricane seasons, locals say Cedar Key will come back better than ever.
So it's those moments that are spectacular and restore your faith in humanity and us as a nation, and certainly us as a very tight-knit community. We lock arms.
And preparation is something I heard a lot about while visiting Cedar Key.
So credit does have to go to our city commission because they were proactive in looking at this, and they didn't have their head in the sand going, oh, this is never going to happen to us.
They were prepared.
They were prepared.
You learn through subsequent storms remediation that you should do. You should learn anyway. And we tried to learn, and we tried to be more prepared for each one. The prep is important. Getting through the storm is important. It's the recovery that's dire, and how you make people be able to function.
People were frightened, people were sad, people were angry.
And when you see the mountain of mess, we had 3-story high debris on our marina parking lot for 6, 8, 10 weeks. There's more debris in that pile. You just didn't know where it was coming from. It was just so much debris. And that takes the strength out of you. It saps you dry.
I had to weave around huge pieces of pavement and debris that you wouldn't believe, and then you just saw piles of debris and devastation everywhere you went.
There is that gut punch that you see your community, the people in your community, some of their homes were gone.
The water, the flooding is what's scary. The powerfulness of the water, it just pours in and there's no stopping any of it, and it just takes minutes to rise. And that's more scary for people than anything else.
Then your neighbors show up and they say, hey, do you need help with something? And they might be able to just sit and help you wash stuff or sift for stuff or whatever it was.
I think returning to some semblance of order of life is critical to making people get through a crisis.
Milton caused widespread flooding. The amount of water pouring into neighborhoods surprised people who live inland. In one place I visited, the water was so high that it was above my head.
Hurricane Milton roared ashore as a Category 3 storm very near Tampa Bay. Storm surge flooding hammered the coast, but even some inland areas were hit hard.
We never expected anything like that since we're so far off from the ocean. Nothing expected like that. Plus, we're on a high elevation, on a good incline, and nobody here in the neighborhood would ever expect something like that.
It was rolling in the house. So we just tried to start lifting everything up as much as we could.
I'm in Forest Hills. It's a suburb of Tampa, just a little bit northeast of Tampa Bay. This is not a flood zone. It's Zone X. But historical flooding occurred here right after Milton, when the water steadily rose from this pond when the pumps failed. And the water at one point was way over my head, inundating many of the homes here that still have a long ways to go before they can recover.
And that was a retention pond pump failure. The backup generator was not on natural gas, and it was on electric, and that zapped, and the water just kept rising and rising, and it rose about 12 feet.
The only way out was by boat. Nectly Duarte was going from house to house to try to offer help to neighbors.
I was helping out. We had my boat over there, my little John boat, helping people out, taking them out during that time, and it was a pretty rough situation for the whole neighborhood. You wouldn't expect something like that here.
We're just mortified. It was the scariest thing I've ever been through. And my husband had to go get a canoe to come get myself and the dog. And we were trying to recover the cars that were in the driveway, which got totaled from the storm. We lost absolutely everything in the house.
The moral of the story is do not let your guard down, even if you're not in any kind of a flood zone.
We've gotten flood insurance even though we're in Zone X. It's not super expensive, but it's an extra cost.
Most who stayed through the storm in this neighborhood said they will evacuate next time.
You saw the trees shaking, you saw the wind blowing, crazy howling just at night, like, and over again, and you're just praying the best.
Before we could come back and even look, it was over 5 days.
And what was that like?
That was the worst thing I ever saw in my life. By the time we got into the house, there was just mold growing everywhere. I mean, the stench was horrible. There was no way we could occupy the home.
The First Alert Weather Team will keep you informed on air and online in the event of a storm. You can watch our latest forecast live or download the Action News Jax First Alert Weather app. You can also watch us on several streaming services and download the First Alert Weather 2025 Hurricane Preparation Guide to ensure you're ready for hurricane season. With all the weather, all the time, I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Buresh.
From Action News Jax, this has been a First Alert Weather Special. Stories of survival from across Florida.